How you going? My name's Jake. This is a Black Ink Podcast, and this is episode number 26. Now, if you're a long-time listener and you're checking in for your daily installment of Black Ink, welcome back. Thank you for your support. And if you're a first-time listener, then I don't even know what to tell you, what to expect. I feel like my podcasts take all these crazy turns, and half the time when I sit down with some sort of idea of what I want to talk about, I get 2 minutes in and just fucking zoom off into space on a tangent, talking about something completely random and also off the top of my head. So it's just because I don't really have anything backed up, I just keep on going from thing to thing to thing to thing. So if you are a long-time listener and you have noticed that, I'm sorry that I do that, but I just feel so fucking good when I get on these rolls. And if you're not a long-time listener and you're wondering what to expect, that's what to expect. It's just kind of I would almost call it like a kick-ons chat, Which I tried to, I was thinking about naming this podcast the Kick-Ons Podcast, and I didn't even realize there's a podcast in Perth called the Kick-Ons Podcast. So obviously those guys are heaps cooler than me. I'm not going to touch the name, it's all theirs. But I'm still up in arms as to whether I want to call this an internet show or a podcast, only because... And this applies to everything, you have to, whenever you're marketing anything or when you're when you're taking something to the public, I guess, you have to be considerate of obviously how it's going to be received and how it's going to be interpreted by people. So even coming up with a business name or a slogan or your logo or any of this is super important, because obviously when you make anything, whether it's a good or a service, you have an audience or a customer base that you're speaking to with your products. So how you're perceived is a big deal. And I think calling myself a podcast, it almost gives it too much of a, I wouldn't even say there's much expectations put around podcasts, because people who listen to podcasts appreciate from the get. What are you doing? Hey, leave it. People who watch and listen to podcasts all the time, they're oh, yep, cool, I'm on board straight away. But I still feel the transitional period between people who haven't listened to podcasts and people who would, if they knew about them and understood how the process works, I feel saying that I have a podcast is kind of I don't know, it almost holds me back a little bit, because it's still putting it in the question of not understandable content. But I feel if I call it an internet show, which it is, a show that lives on the internet on multiple streaming platforms, then it kind of is almost relatable to a TV show, except you access it through the internet. And also, who knows? This shit might end up on Netflix as far as I know. I'm not putting any fucking ceiling on what I can achieve, dude. Are you serious? I'm going to the moon, baby. I'm going to fucking past Elon. That's my plan. Hey? Where was that? Up here? Up here? Oh, it's too good. But yeah, and also I just kind of want to give it its own... I would like a cool name that has a cool acronym and that, just for the sake of having an attractive Instagram handle, not just BX Podcast. And you're probably thinking oh, it's, some of this is a bit okay, that's really important. Actually it is. I'll tell you one interesting thing that I learned, and I spoke about this on yesterday's podcast a little bit. Also, I say that way too much. I apologize. I spoke about this yesterday. But I like to imagine that my Instagram and my YouTube and my Facebook, that's my shop front. And obviously all the people that follow me and all the people that find me on their search page there, that's my foot traffic of people walking past. And those first 9 slides you get when someone goes into your profile, that's the shit that you've got in the window. And then everything under that, and your tag posts and all your reels and all that, they can, all the different little things, that's all the shit that's deep in the shop that once they walk in, they start seeing more and more. And the real interesting part about that is, before anything, obviously, as someone interacts you, they have 2 pieces of information. Typically, it's your handle and your little icon. So getting a super effective, something that transmits exactly what they do in that one word. So it's the word is very descriptive. And there's a thing Black Ink isn't descriptive of what I do, but Black Ink is so unique, and how it looks with the X, that once you kind of understand what it is, it's really easy for the brain to realize what that is. And by having a real clean, simple logo that's I never changed it, and it's kind of super distinguishable because I haven't changed it. So I find that when I look at my podcast channel for Instagram and on YouTube, it's trying to understand what sort of name and what sort of perception do I want of this before someone even goes onto and starts watching it. How do I want to communicate with them what's actually going on? And I feel calling it a podcast is, it's interesting. If you've listened to all of these, I perceive a podcast only because I'm a massive like Joe Rogan, Fighter and the Kid, like Theo Von, Bobby Lee, fill in the blanks, Chris D'Elia. I love all of these guys. So, well, I guess Chris D'Elia and Bill Burr, they do solo podcasts for an hour each. But everyone else, a podcast is like a recorded conversation. And essentially, I feel like the essence of a podcast is a conversation, but it's just kind of like I don't know how to, without putting myself in a category, but some people just decide to do podcasts by themselves. And noting on that, I feel like when I've done interviews on camera with even like, obviously just my friends, I don't have access to like, huge names or whatever. But when I've done interviews with friends, the thing that I've noticed about myself is I feel like I have so much going on in my head. The only thing I want to do is like create analogies and cross references and examples of what they're talking about, and then expand on that and why I think that's important. And I know that's obviously just like saying like, yeah, dude, you're selfish and pretentious and you want to hear your voice more than theirs. More so, like that might be right, but I just feel like just talking like this and having this open space and open air to just fucking say whatever I want to say and get it out until I don't have any breath left in my fucking lungs, or I run out of the 45-minute times and quite typically run over it. I just find that it's such a nice, it's like just a nice expression, and I feel like that's what, and obviously like it comes down to just producing like pure, organic, genuine content. And I feel like for the position that I'm in, to make something that's valuable for the listener, it's really kind of, what would you call it? It's just like, I feel like if you're an audience member right now, you really don't care about like the people that I went to school with or like customers that I've got, which are people that I would put on the podcast. And I'm not saying that they're unimportant or not interesting or don't have great stories. It's a really hard sell. I feel like the thing that would make it, to a certain point, the thing that would make it interesting to watch is building enough of a character around me and then getting to a place where I could use that character that I have built so we have relatability, you and me. So then you watch me go and interview people and it gives you kind of that like, oh, okay, how's Jake going to go about finding out about this person in this particular way? So, I don't know, there's a lot of bloody nuances that I try and figure out with like, and obviously like it comes down to like, making a valuable podcast is obviously it's valuable. Hang on, let me start from scratch. The whole social media thing in general, when you're trying to figure out like who your audience is, I feel like there's two questions there. It's who your audience is and who you want your audience to be as well. Because I can make a really popular Instagram page of just like all chicks in bikinis, and then like if I just keep posting pictures of chicks in bikinis, people who like that sort of thing will follow and it will go off. But the thing is, if you don't want to be posting pictures of chicks in bikinis twice a day, every day, then it's like, it's kind of shitty. And like, that's kind of a decision that I had to make with Black Ink is like, and I talk about this story a lot, when I hit 1,000 followers and I was like, right, do I try and cater to these 1,000? Now I've hit this 1,000 follower mark. I put it up on a pedestal and I was like, right, now I've got to adjust myself to having 1,000 followers. I have to post like someone who has 1,000 consistent kind of, super valuable followers. And then I thought, like, that's when it occurred to me, like, I have to stay true to what I want to post now more than ever. So that even if I lose followers, at least the followers that I have respond to the shit that I'm posting. And I find it easy to post about it, because this is the thing, posting is a tedious duty. Having to post every day and come up with a caption and like engage with people, it's tedious. It's not that it's difficult, it's just, it's a repetitive thing. It's a problem that's kind of semi-hard to solve. And if you don't do it right, it completely comes out in your sales. And if you do it right, it does, it has like obvious, like kind of payoffs if you do it right. So I find that when it comes to, hang on, I went off on a tangent. Now I've fucking gone too far. Unreal. Posting, valuable, unreal. I've lost it. That's alright, I'll drink some water. I couldn't believe it yesterday when so we actually drove past the by the way, I just fucking completely forgot what I was talking about, so you're gonna have to stick with me here. I'm only 10 minutes in. How scary is that? But yeah, when we went to this place yesterday where they had like, they're not throwing stuff out, they left furniture out on the verge of the flower place here in Bunbury. There was one lady who like pulled up and Again, like, I don't want, like, I'm not picking on this person. It's just like, this is what happened and this is my response to how it happened. And it's not even that fucking interesting. It's just, to me, it's like, I don't understand how people live. And like, this bitch is like, she's like, you know, probably elderly. I don't know. She was fucking way older than me, I guess. And she pulled up and just like, I pay attention to all these things because I'm a truck driver, so I'm really adept to watching how cars move versus how they indicate how they're going to move. So a lot of times you'll see, like, you can kind of see incidents before they're going to happen, and you can like interpret a car's going to move into your lane even if they don't have the indicator on, or even if the head isn't checking. I'm really adept to all these things. So I saw this car pull into the car park with no indicator, which is all good because, you know, it's Sunday and it's middle of the day, so who else is on the road? You know what I mean? All good. Who needs a fucking indicator? But I'm just thinking, right, she's probably so, like, I give drivers the benefit of the doubt, thinking like, you know what? You probably look behind you and saw that there's no cars there, and obviously you don't need to indicate, you know, because who are you going to be indicating to if there's no one behind you? You're going to be indicating to the fucking traffic gods, you know? So she's pulled in. There was cars behind her, by the way. I checked. So she's pulled in, and then she's kind of like pulled up adjacent, not parallel, like it's here. She's pulled in here, and she's like looking out the window, and just like one of those fucking mouth breathing sort of looks where she's got the glasses on, and she's just looking at all this shit out the window, which, hey, this is like everyone over 50. Is there like a certain sect of people that once they reach a certain age, they have to be making a face when they're thinking about things? Like, why do you see that all the time of like people make like old, I'm not being mean towards old people, but why, like, can't, like, self-awareness, you know, like shut your mouth, breathe through your nose, like just have normal eyes and just think, you know what I mean? Because like thinking should be the only thing that you don't have to like tense any muscles to do. You should just be able to fucking tense the brain and think, you know? So she's doing the fucking mouth breath out the window, like gauging whether, and she's in a Ford Focus, you know what I mean? And like the smallest thing there is a fucking chair that you wouldn't be able to fit in the back of her boot. Anyway, so she pulls up and we're like, long story, but I wanted this big bench, and I wanted it so bad that I had to make sure no one else was going to get it, and I couldn't get it straight away. So we're moving it around the back towards the skip bin, and we're putting other shit on it, so even if people drive past, they think, oh, it's being thrown out or whatever. I actually ended up getting that table because, you know, because when you want something, you can make it happen. Anyway, so we're moving that out the back, and she's gone from like pulled up adjacent to like just turned and pulled in. And then she's like struggled to get out of the car and when I say struggled, like she didn't need our help, you know what I mean? She was fine. What I'm saying is like, you know, after a fucking long time of not doing any exercise, she's now paying the consequence of doing that. You know, it's just like, also, I can fucking talk about that forever. Just let me finish this story. So she's like getting out of the car and like fucking around. And then she like kind of, I think before she's even closed the door, she's like, is it going out? And I said, like, in my mind, here's what I thought. Oh, she asked me if all of that stuff is being thrown out, and if that's what we're doing like, maybe she thinks because we're moving a table out the back that we maybe work here or we know what's going on. So she's asking us, and like the terminology that she's gone for is that going out, right? And like kind of pointing in some general direction of where the shit is, like in between us. And I processed all that in a moment, but also, you know, like, it's not my job, and it's not my job not because I work there, it's not my job because, like, do you not have some sort of responsibility as a human that if you're going to communicate, especially with a total fucking stranger, that you at least try and pronounce words in a sentence that's legible and makes sense, and is, like, congruent to the question that you're asking, right? Doesn't that make sense to you? They're going out, that doesn't do anything for me, you know what I mean? And it's not that I want to put her on her spot. I just want to like confirm that that's what she's asking. So I was like, sorry? And she goes, like, repeats herself. Oh, okay, you know, fuck me. Just say the shit again and then I'll get it, you know? Say it a bit quicker and fucking quieter if you can, because I'm the dickhead in this situation. So she says it again, and I just kind of babble and say, like, if you're asking if they're giving it away for free, yes, they're giving it away for free. She wanders over there with the window still down, like, the car's not running, but you fucking know the accessories are still turned on. I don't even know how I know that. I'm just saying, you know that's how she leaves her keys. She wanders over there, like, literally not even a minute, gets back in her car and drives away. And I understand. Like, look, I'm just being a fucking asshole right now. I totally get it. That she was like, saw a free stuff sign, she's pulled up, done a bit of investigating, and then jumped in her car and moved on, you know? from my point of view, there was just so little effort put into that. And I'm a firm believer in how you do anything is how you do everything. Like, I'm so sure that, like, she probably brushes her teeth like once a week. You know what I mean? She probably just like has built this character around herself, saying like, oh, I'm the sort of person that just life is too hard. You know, like can't even communicate with another human, you know, with a sentence that maybe had like 7 words in it tops to ask it properly, just broke it down to 3 kind of half words. I know I'm being hell aggressive right now, but this is just where I go to. You know what I mean? And like, if you watch this podcast, if you listen to me all the time, you understand I'm trying for excellence. I really am, you know, even if I'm a little bit fucking wavy on my path, my goal is excellence. My goal is brilliance. And when I interpret these other humans, I understand they might have had some sort of, you know, yes, you can play devil's advocate and defend them and say they've had a hard upbringing and rah, rah, rah. Okay, that's fucking awesome. But just speak properly, you know? Of course you didn't indicate on the way in. Of course you're not going to fucking give me a legible fucking sentence that I can just politely and properly answer to. Like, of course you're going to ask me something that pushes me into a corner of having to be a fuckhead to get out of it. You know what I mean? But look, I'm just being mean for no reason. Obviously, that whole story was made up, just metaphorical, because I don't want any heat coming back off it. Just thank you to the Flower Place for the new benches that I have in my shed down in my work area here. With this new expansion that Black Ink is currently going through, it's definitely going to be. Oh, I've never said that out loud. That's pretty fun. With the kind of like expanding phase that I'm going through at the moment, they're going to be super helpful. So I'm super grateful. And like weirdly enough, going back to this whole prayer thing, I've been seeing them in my mind for a little while now. This big long bench top and the wooden bit underneath and all the rest, and literally like exactly the one that I got. So I can't believe that. And like I spoke about the rack the other day that Larissa's mum gave to me, just like a rack that in my mind I've been picturing like, oh, I'm going to eventually need one of these racks. I can see all my jerseys sitting on them. And long story short, right behind the camera over here, there is a rack with my jersey sitting on it because Larissa's mum just called me up one day and said, oh, I've got this rack. Did you want it? Bada bing, got it. So now, going back to what I said I could record a whole podcast about, if this hurts your feelings, if any of this hurts your feelings, it's all good, I don't mind. The thing about like mobility, and like I see this over and over and over, and to be very fucking honest, I learnt by watching the people closest to me go through these exact steps in this order, right? Mobility in your old age. And also I just want to say like how much I mentioned in, I think it was like 5 podcasts ago, I said how important like the Joe Rogan podcast was to me in like developing an idea of like what kind of like masculinity is and the type of men that there are in the world, and like how I can aspire to be something different other than like, for the easy example, rather than just being another version of my dad, which is what a lot of us do, especially as young men. We look at our dads as if they're our heroes, and my dad is my hero. My dad is 100% my hero. But at the same time, I like to keep my mind diverse as far as like understanding that there are many types of men in this world, and we have the choice to be any sort of man that we want. Obviously, I'm speaking as someone who identifies and is biologically a male. These are my thoughts. There are many different types of men you can be. And your version of brilliance is obviously like a collection of what these men are put together that you're exercising, trying to embody and like live out, you know? So the thing that I was given, like one of the things I was given from watching Joe Rogan, and obviously like in his crazy kind of, I've used diverse twice in under a minute, all good. In his crazy like, what would you call it, vocabulary of like, nah, that's not the right word. Anyway, I'm getting too caught up. Everything that he does, you know what I mean? So like, obviously he's a cage fighting commentator, he's a podcaster, he's a comedian, and just like interviews with like some of the most interesting people across all these different industries and all these different like fields of knowledge. And the cool thing about him is like he's super healthy and he's super dialed into like staying current and understanding technology. He's super like on brand as far as like keeping in his own lane and understanding who he is and understanding how he markets himself and all the rest. And I think what kind of made me realize about Joe Rogan versus say like my dad is like Joe Rogan can do the splits, and it's not that my dad is hugely he's not super flexible, but it just occurred to me like they're a similar age, and one man can do one thing and one man can't do it as well. And the thing that I learnt from this, and like I noticed this very early on, is like, it's literally just repetition and testing. So the more times you can repeat something, the more likely you're going to be able to do it for a long amount of time. So if anyone knows me personally, you know that I never stop stretching. Like literally, I'll stop what I'm doing to go stretching. I might stretch on average once every 2 or 3 hours, even if it's just for like 2 or 3 minutes. I'll stretch all of my hips and my legs, my calves, and like as much of my ribs and shoulders and neck and that I can, just to make sure that I can still stretch, you know? And I feel like, obviously, I'm almost at a point now where it's almost like I would almost call it therapeutic when I do my stretching, because I kind of rely on it to like have that moment, just to like feel my body and to feel like, just to like know that my body has that kind of instant availability of like muscle activation, to know that, okay, if I go to use this all of a sudden, I know I'm not going to fucking, hurt my hip or have something. Because the weird thing is, at 28, I feel like I don't want to say anything greater than my age, but I want to say like 35. I feel like I just went so fucking hard in my early 20s and like late teenage years in skating and just in life, that now I kind of, like years of riding a fixie and like skating and doing all these things, I feel like I just have knees that are ready to explode at any point. My hips are always like, have the potential to be tight. I seem to have like tight ribs all the time as well. So doing these things all the time, I just like to know that I'm not going to wake up in the middle of the night with a cramp, or I'm not going to, as I say before, like go to twist something and have a fucking weird pop. I kind of want to know that just knowing that you have that range of mobility. And like an easy example is like being able to turn your head so far that your chin goes over your shoulder. And the reason this is good is because it's easy to test. You can test it every day. And it's like literally just a look over. Yep, cool, I know. And if you do that every day, then I don't feel like you're going to wake up one day at 50 and go like, oh, I don't have head movement anymore, And like go to tilt your head over and realize like, oh, there's no fucking, you get to there and you're like, oh no, I'm stuck, you can't keep going. It's like, if I do it every day, I know that I'm going to have that mobility. So by like and this is the crazy thing, like through just doing it every day, you get more flexible and it becomes easy and it becomes something that you look forward to. And it's literally just as simple as like not doing it every day. And like there's some things that I don't do every day, but I still make sure that I'm doing regularly. It's like every time I'm on my push bike, if I'm by myself, give at least one good hard effort. And man, unless you're an athlete as a teenager, I'm sorry to say, you don't know what hard effort is. Most people don't know what hard effort is. Even Joe Rogan was talking about on his podcast today, most people don't even know what feeling good is. Because as I was mentioning yesterday on my podcast, on your bingo card, I've said it 5 times now. As I mentioned yesterday on my podcast, we are constantly, what the fuck was I going to say? All right. This is fucking stupid. A lot just happened. Okay, let me fill you in. And I hate fucking cutting these podcasts up. I just like it being one full run, 45 minutes that makes sense. But here's what happened. I totally fucking lost my train of thought. I don't even know. Look, and what happened was I went on a tangent, okay? If I talk too much right now, I'll fucking forget what the point was. I'll forget what the point was and it will be all for nothing anyway. So, basically what I was saying is most people don't know. Oh, and then what happened was, this is hilarious. When I lost my train of thought, I could hear this creaking in the house and I went on this whole bit about how this house has so much character, and during the summer and during the winter, the heat and all that, it makes heaps of noises and it creaks and moans and all the rest. I left on the new toasting machine and that was just going pop, pop, pop. It's been on for like half an hour now, so fucking I'm an idiot, here we are. What I was saying is, unless you've been an athlete, dude, you don't know what fucking a big effort is. And that's all good, but as Joe Rogan said, most people don't even know what feeling good is. We have so much shit that gets in the way with our life that we find like salvation in these little creature comforts that is just the normalcy of living. And because we're like always getting ourselves a chocolate bar to make ourselves feel better, or we're getting a coffee on the way to work to kind of make the pain of going to work not as bad, or we're losing a little bit of sleep because we're staying up and watching an extra episode of The Office, or fill in the gap. All these comforts that we rely on to get through life and to feel okay about the fact that we're fucking giving away 80% of our life force just to make a living, is the things that making us feel like shit and inflaming our muscles and making us feel terrible because we're having too much sugar, not drinking enough water, not sleeping enough, blah, blah, blah. It's just, that sort of, that has nothing to do with what I was talking about. That's just what Joe Rogan was saying, and it's really true, and it correlates because I feel like unless you've been an athlete who's given a really big effort over and over and over and over, you start to understand that like what you think your body is capable of doing and what your body is capable of doing are two totally different things. And like most people, if you've moseyed through life without doing much sport at all, like you don't realize you can actually run hell hard, hell consistently for a while, but there's a heap of like mental barriers that you've got to push through to get it. Your body is capable of doing it, but there's a heap of things in your head that'll make you say, no, 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 no. As soon as you start to get puffed, as soon as your lungs start to hurt, as soon as you fucking, all these things, you feel a bit of lactic acid, or as soon as your feet feel heavy, you can keep running. The difference between you and a badass is like someone who doesn't listen to that. That's basically it. You know, you can actually go to the gym and sure, like, you know, you're going to have fucking, if you've never been to the gym, it's probably not a great idea to go in there and just like work out like fucking crazy. The point of the story is that's what you can do. And the greater point to what I'm talking about is it's important that you test yourself regularly. It's important to make sure that you still can do a Sudoku as well. It's important to make sure that you can still have a conversation. It's important to still make sure you still understand and are comfortable being social and what that means, and like your job as a human to like do that and make sure you're getting enough of that in your life. And this is all as important as making sure that you stretch every day, making sure that you drink water every day, because the thing that scares me the most is waking up at fucking 50 years old and realizing that my body's fucked because I forgot to do so many little things along the way. And please understand, I'm not saying that about my dad. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the comparison between my dad and Joe Rogan made me realize that if Joe Rogan's all the way over here and here's my dad, then there's all the way over here that's also super easy to fall in the trap of. You know what I mean? It's super easy to accidentally go like, oh, fuck, you know, like, yeah, every now and then I drink some water. It's like, no, fuck no, man. I've drunk 2 liters of water every day of my life. There's no reason why I shouldn't, you know, as a standard, it's really good to have like that kind of level of discipline with yourself where you go, well, I know that, you know, if I'm feeling unwell, say, let's use this as an example. If I'm feeling unwell, I know that already today I've drunk 2 liters of water, I've eaten this, and this, which is within my usual thing of things that I eat. I've stretched, I've taken time to pray, I've read a book, I've done all these things. So if I'd follow these real basic guidelines of like not too much sugar, the right amount of water, making sure my body moves and keeping my mind active, and I'm feeling anything outside of the realm of like normalcy, of what I consider to be normal, then yes, that's a cause for concern. It's like having a baseline of what you understand like normal feeling is for you as a human is a really important thing to not only like understand but maintain. And that's my whole point here. Like, that lady getting out of that car kind of says to me, like, you have spent a life of letting things slip by. Yes, and I know, I don't know this lady. You can defend her until the cows come home saying she has whatever you want. I'm just saying that someone who has the capacity to get a license and drive the car somewhere and realize something's for free and pull in probably has the capacity to pronounce a sentence properly, you know? Or maybe I'm just a fucking super piece of shit that doesn't know the full story. You know, I've got to play devil's advocate because this is the internet and I'm going to get butt fucked if I leave myself open. Probably get in trouble for saying butt fucked. You know what I mean? That's the internet. How good is it? Fuck, dude. But fuck them, you know what I mean? Absolutely fuck them. I find a lot of kind of peace in knowing what my body can do as well. It's an interesting, I don't think it's like an impressive thing to be able to like touch your toes or something, but it's definitely just like, it's humbling. It's especially humbling to forget it for a couple of days and you do it and you're like, oh, I feel tight, like I don't feel limber. And then I imagine like, oh, what would that be if I didn't do it for a year? And it's pretty like, I know it's super silly to think like, oh, it's just touching your toes, like keeping your legs straight and touching your toes. But if you don't actively think to do it, like maybe you're someone who doesn't touch your toes or can't touch your toes. And what's the reason you can't touch them? Because you haven't been trying to touch them lately, I'm going to guess. Because you haven't had an attempt to touch them over and over and over and over. Because there's definitely been periods in my life where it's like touching my toes was not only not an option, it was so far out of the picture. And like at the moment, I think I can put like that part of my hand on the ground flat, you know, touching, like leaning down, touching my toes, and I can like hug my quads and stuff like that. I would love to one day be able to do the splits, but that only comes from like doing it over and over and over again. It's like having that knowledge that that's possible. And yeah, I feel like I don't want to get too generalized with it as well, but I definitely feel like there's some sort of like generational knowledge where I can understand how my parents' generation, they were actually like the real children of marketing, right? And I say that only because I feel like my generation and people younger than me are the adolescents of marketing, in that they understand it. They're a little bit more hip to it. They know they're being sold something in the process. Whereas like my parents had no fucking idea that by just seeing something on TV, it kind of made them automatically want it. You know what I mean? Like and that's why like the kind of era of the Super Bowl commercial thing is like, it's kind of fucked now, because it's like, yeah, sure, it's a big deal, but also like what it was 15 years ago compared to now, when we see like 1,500 ads a week on YouTube and in between podcasts and on Facebook and on Instagram, and you fill in the blank, and obviously everything out there in real life. It's like, well, a Super Bowl ad once a year isn't as effective, you know, whereas say like even going back to my childhood, putting in a toy ad on during Cheese TV on Saturday, motherfucker, most of the time I didn't want the shit, but like you would recognize it from seeing it on TV in the shop, and you would be more drawn to it. Now, whether or not you asked your parent to buy it doesn't matter. The fact is you were drawn to it in the first place, and you're more likely to buy it in general. So I feel like my parents were a little bit more kind of naive to the fact, and why they might have gone like, oh, you put something on TV and it sells and all the rest. They didn't really understand. I feel like they don't understand that they were the kind of the victim in that. They were the product, you know. They were like the list of people that could be built off that sort of advertising. And I think that speaks true, because it's like when you look at that generation responding to news, they're so much more ready and willing to accept it as gospel. They're like, fuck yeah, well, that's what's happening. And that's like going back to podcasts, speaking about that woman who, like, you know, it's your social responsibility to get vaccinated. It's like, but you're basing your information off what you see on the news, right? And you know that the news isn't accurate, right? Like you know that what they put on in the news that's just like a glamorized version of what's going on. And when I say glamorized, I mean it's prettied up in the most attractive way as far as what's going to get your attention. Not as far as what's going to tell you the most information, or what's the most relevant, or what's, you know, the priorities are what's going to make you watch for the longest, focused on that fact, and then blow that up, right? So the machine that churns out this news has less like determination in trying to give you things that are going to help you make decisions. They're going to give you more things to make you watch for longer, so that they have a dominant presence in your life. So it's like trying to have a conversation with that person about like, okay, before we talk about like what information is, we have to talk about where this information is sourced from. And when someone believes that their source of information is pure and it is being honest, then you can't have a conversation with them. It's only an argument, because they're saying, well, this is what the TV said. And it's like, okay, my whole generation are going to back me up in saying this. The TV lied to you, sweetie. And I'm sorry that you got brought up thinking that it's gospel, and it probably was at one stage, but it isn't anymore. You know, that's the fucking reality of this. And I'm coming from a place of probably hearing between 4 and 10 times the amount of information that you're ever going to hear about COVID, and I still don't fucking know. And that's why I've made my decision the way I have. Whatever we were talking about, it's not important. We're not going down that rabbit hole. What I'm saying is, that generation are so fucking ready to believe shit that they read on the news, that buy shit that they see in a newspaper, buy shit that they see in a magazine, because they were kind of the first ones that really got bombarded with marketing and advertising. And look at how it turned out. They all own shit they don't need, and heaps of it. You know, that's the whole thing. You know, the whole idea is to own property and to own your Australian dream and fill it full of shit that you don't use, you know? Go get debt for it. Go get a bigger TV. This one's too small. You can't see the fucking... It's not life size, you know what I mean? Anyway, it's not the point. But the crazy part about it is like, obviously, as I mention all the time, the whole point of being a human is something to do with progression and wanting to do better. And that's why, like, my generation and everyone younger, kind of is more... Like, that's just the next step. Of course, we're going to realize that the customer is the product. It's not the product anymore. It's how many customers you can sell to. And therefore, you know, we play we play a bit of hardball. You know what I mean? Like you see an advertisement, it's not like you stop and read the advertisement. Most of the time, if you know something is an ad, you don't take it seriously. You just keep moving. You skip the ad on YouTube. If you can fast forward to the advertisements, you do. That's just how we respond. We're kind of like, oh yeah, no, unless the product is really kind of like, ooh, what do we got here? This is like something I'm actually interested in or whatever it might be. It makes me wonder like, well, what's the next generation? How are they going to be perceiving their ads? And also the people who make ads, people who are in my position when I'm trying to market myself, make my brand and advertise my goods and my services, makes you wonder like, well, what are we going to have to do to make things that are applicable and work on this next generation of potential customers, you know? Kind of, fuck yeah, dude. That was a tangent. I went from that old lady getting out of her car to like the effectiveness of generational advertising. Bitch, that's what my podcast is about. If this is your first podcast, that's what it's about. Intergenerational fucking marketing strategy, boy. Oh, shit. Rightio. I'm gonna put a pin in that and leave that where it is. Talking about putting a pin in things. I know I keep saying this shit about, you know, like prayer and manifestation, and you see it in your mind and then it happens. But your boy has got all these interesting ideas that I've been getting on pieces of paper, and I was like, oh, I've got 3 whiteboards, I don't have a corkboard. You know what I need is a corkboard. All good. Mosey's on into Salvo's at the door. $3. Corkboard. Got a corkboard. Got a shelf. I got a corkboard. I got this place that Black Ink is now existing in that's now allowing all this expansion to happen. It's like the timing of everything is kind of blowing my mind, because in one way I've asked for all of this, and now that it's kind of happening just in perfect motion, and it's crazy because I don't want to jinx it by talking about it, but at the same time I want to talk about it because I have so much confidence in it because it's just happening, you know. And I feel like even if things do change a bit and I have to be flexible on my path, I still have that like everything is happening in such a nice like kind of notion that I'm confident to go like, of course I didn't get the house until now, you know, and of course I didn't find out about this way of doing my own processing and developing my own garments until now. And of course I didn't get this crazy offer for this particular piece of equipment until I sold my caravan and so on. So it's just like, I'm finding now that like, the more I just have faith that whatever I'm doing is heading in the right direction, and I just do the damn work, whatever the job is in front of me, just doing it. I spoke about this the other day, you know, like whatever that job is, no matter how small it is, just get it out of the way and do it to the best of your ability, because as soon as it's done, you'll know the next one. I purely rely on that. And I've also, you know, this is not a bragging thing, this is just like a stating thing for the record, I guess, that my business has been cash the whole way. I've only ever done what I can afford to do on that day. And if I had to wait another day or another 2 days or 3 days to make it happen, I did that. You know, like I've like kept myself above water and not got myself in a position where it's like, right, I've got all the shit. I'm not going to start making money for 1.5 years, but we'll hold on till then, you know? And also, nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all wrong with that. If you've done that, fuck man. It's half the fucking journey, isn't it? You know what I mean? Paying off that's how my original business started. That's how Black Ink started, was borrowing the money to buy the coffee van to do the thing. And I just I guess that the reason why I say that, or the reason that I talk about it being a cash business up front, is because I've always found that when you have any sort of debt hanging over your head, any sort of official debt, that's what you think. That's what you wake up thinking about. Like there's nothing else going on except paying off that debt. And I guess some people, most people, all people in debt probably have this, the ability to just put it out of their mind. But I can't help but feel guilty with everything that I spend while I've got debt, that I'm not paying back the debt that I have, rather than paying the person that I owe money to. You know, like, and whether that be my mum, or whether that be the bank, or anyone in between, you know, whether it be a friend or a family member or a fucking loan shark, whatever it is, like, who are you to buy a sausage roll and sauce if you owe that motherfucker $12,000? Oh yeah, well $4 doesn't make a difference. Sure, it doesn't make a difference, but if you have like 100 sausage rolls, which isn't, you know, outside of my bloody scope of eating within a year, that's $400. That's actually like a good fraction of that $12,000. So what are you doing now with that fucking... put the snag roll down, you know what I'm saying? But I guess most people just don't operate like that. I guess people just kind of, I don't know. I don't know. I actually think that most people, when I assess that in my mind, like I look at what the general way of living is and like the general way of borrowing and like kind of financing your life, I believe that a lot of people just silence the thought. I believe that a lot of people rely on whether it be mental or physical kind of crutches to lean on when considering these things in their life. I feel like a lot of people just go like, everyone's got debt. It is what it is. We've got this fucking 150-year plan and it's all going to, work out in the long run. And if I want a new car, I'll just refinance my house and all the rest. I think people are just negligent to the fact that it's going on. They continue living. They continue with their, pissing contests into the wind with fucking whoever they work with as far as like buying shit they don't need. I truthfully believe that. But I also know that from personal experience that when it comes to having debt and not having debt, I would much rather have no debt and nothing to my name and struggle hand to mouth than have lavish things that I really can't afford, that I had to put myself into debt and to get. And most importantly, that they're not really assets. They're not going to help me in the long run. It's like, if you've got a nice car, like if you're in the situation where like, if you've got like say a $30,000 car or $40,000 car and nothing to your name and like, you're thinking that, oh yeah, but I've got a nice car. Like that's only for you. If that brings you enough emotional happiness that you can justify that means, then that's all good. But the reality is like that car's not worth $40,000 if that's what you paid for it. That car's only going to lose value every day that you have it, every kilometer that you put on it. You know what I mean? Like you have to assume that it's not going to do you any good. So people in that situation, it's like, dude, start a business. $40,000, drive a fucking Hyundai XL and start a business. Like if you're that passionate about having cool shit, you're better off working for a couple years and getting cool shit than pretending to have cool shit, And this is one of the biggest decisions that you make as a consumer is, are you going to be a sucker to instant gratification? Because that's essentially what business is. I've mentioned this before. All business is figuring out in your niche or in your sector how you can best provide instant gratification to your customer. The more efficiently you can provide your service or product to your customer, the more money you're going to make. It's like adding Afterpay to my webpage, so people don't even have to pay for it right now and they can still have something within 3 clicks off my fucking Instagram page. Of course they're more likely to buy it. You've made it more efficient. And it's like, this is the same reason that why people who say like, oh yeah, just got these new tops in, like DM if you want to cop one. It's like, bro, understand that DMing you to like, oh, what's your size? Where am I shipping it to? Oh yeah, PayPal me or direct deposit. It's not efficient enough. You know what I mean? Like the more efficient, the more like seamless you can make the whole process, the better off your business is, Fuck, I've gone off the track again, man. This is ridiculous. I'm going to have to sign this shit out. I hope I've hit 45 minutes. If I haven't, I'm sorry. I'm a bloody shambles today. I would re-record this, but I'm busy from like 20 minutes from now until fucking 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So this was my one and only option. And it was, honestly, I almost want to leave it in because I sat here and I just fucking stared off. This is when I forgot what was going on at the 25-minute mark or 24 minutes. I sat here and I stared off and it got to a point and then I heard that creaking of heard the creaking, started talking about the bloody house being haunted and having heaps of character and then realised it's the new toasting machine and felt like a fucking idiot. So, look, it took a minute but we got here. Now I can't stop burping. Right here, I'm going to sign out because this is getting ridiculous. Don't forget, be good to your mum, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on everything, reach out, tell me what your thoughts are about the podcast. I would love to hear from you. And, I guess that's it, motherfucker. I'm out. You!